examining the sixth key of Enoch. And this particular portion is going to be very long, so we're breaking it up. Because he tells us that if we examine the book of Genesis involving the 7 days of creation, we see the 6 fields of light come together so that on the 7th day, the transmutation can be added to the physical chemistry of life. Oh boy, all this gobbledygook and everything. But there's more. Therefore, on the 7th aeon of light, the races which were evolved during the first 6 aeons of time are superseded by the 7th ray, which is the planting of our Adamic household of Kima and Kesel intelligence on the planet as a witness to the evolving nations. Wow!
I have a headache.
You have a headache. Imagine me. I'm the one reading this. But, there's a few words here that we need to look at. One of them is aeon, or eon, depending on how you choose to pronounce it. And what it means is a very long period of time. Some say 1,000 million years. Oh, that's a long time. I like the last definition attached to it, which is an emanation. And the interesting thing is that as an emanation, or even a very long time, or the million, thousands, or thousands, million, whatever, years, what it tells me is that these 6 days are still happening. Are still happening. And on the 7th emanation, according to this, something happened. Unfortunately, you're going to have to wait 6 more days before we get to the 7th day to find out what happened. But I want to point out that the words Kima and Kesel, and I may be mispronouncing those words because they're Hebrew, and I'm Italian, and you know how Italians are. We like this accent here because it makes us sound so funny. But Kima and Kesel are representations of the Pleiades and Orion. And for those of you who were here the last time we talked about the 6th key, the Pleiades and the Orion, we determined was a representation of the male and female energies, or the potential and dynamic, or again, implicate and explicate, meaning the universe of potential, which is where I gaze at for messages when I'm doing clairvoyance, and then the explicate, which is, well, just look around, that's the explicate universe there. So for us to gain an understanding of this, you know what we're going to do? We are going to walk through the days of creation in Genesis. But before we do that, let's get some thoughts about what these 7 days of creation might mean to some of you. And Reverend Thomas, would you like to give us an opinion?
Thanks a lot, Philip.
You're welcome.
Well, aside from the keys of Enoch, the 7 days of creation, as described in Genesis, in in my own wrestling with understanding what science says about that and what the way it shows up in the Old Testament, that when you take the word day and use the earlier definition of that Hebrew word, which meant period of time,
that the science may kind of corroborate the breaking that up into 6 stages when you look at it. When you take the time factor, you stop limiting it with a 24-hour day, which I always thought was kind of funny because 24-hour day couldn't exist until the very end of creation when because by definition, it is the revolution of the earth around the sun one time. And or one revolution of the earth towards the sun one time, and that didn't even exist in the first 5 days. So letting go of that and looking at it as a period of time, and then the way science describes those 6 periods, it kind of fits and it substantiates that. But there definitely were phases and steps in creation, and the Keys of Enoch addresses that in a unique way that is interesting to explore. And that's about as much as I know about that at the moment. And I'll let you continue, Reverend Philip, to enlighten us. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's ask Beth. What are your thoughts about the 7 days of creation?
All I know is I don't take it literally. So my belief system was always that it was over billions of years, or at least millions.
1,000 million. That's what it says here. 1,000
I
million.
didn't know an eon was that long.
I'd like to know how they came up with that measurement. So, well, we're going to explore that. And I'm sure you're all familiar with this. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Sounds ominous. And the earth was without form and void. And darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. You know, we have the heaven and the earth. He formed them. He formed them. But what were they formed of?
Well, if Earth was void, then it wasn't formed of anything. It was like a black hole or something.
Ooh, black hole. I like that.
Thank you.
I like that. Anybody else would like to venture a thought? Everybody looks to Ray.
We only got the solution here.
I'm saving the good one for him.
Oh, here comes the bus. Here comes the bus. Yeah.
Well, you know, the way it's described is that the earth was just an idea, a thought, because it wasn't formed. He created. And how do we create? I could ask Ray this one because he deals with blueprints, correct? And blueprints are representations of an idea. So when we create, everything begins as an idea. In fact, I read somewhere in one of my Buddhist books that everything rises from mind. Everything begins from mind. So everything begins as a thought. So heaven and earth being created, they were thoughts or dreams. And there was darkness upon the deep. Can you think of anything that's typically dark and deep? The ocean?
The universe.
The universe?
My soul.
Oh.
Actually, she's pretty close. A lot closer than everybody else.
Ew. Uh-oh.
Now, one of my favorite series, and then they made a movie out of it and just ruined it. But the series was fantastic. And it was the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And if you've never seen the British series, it's like 8-10 episodes, you really should check it out sometime because it's much better than the movie. But, in the movie, they've got this deep thought, this computer called Deep Thought. And the computer said that they had to create another computer to answer the question of what was the meaning of life. So you know what they created in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? That don't panic. Humans.
Ugh.
So with that hint, would anyone like to venture a guess? Deep thought.
I guess of what?
What would the darkness be? The deep darkness.
Our minds?
Yes, I told you were close. There was darkness upon the deep, the mind. Makes sense to me. I don't know about you, but it makes sense to me because the deep can indicate a variety of meanings. There's the old joke, deep and moist, but we won't go into that one. But if we draw from the idea of there being no form and there being darkness, what does that leave us? Mind has no form. We have brain, and the brain is not the mind. They've already determined that. The brain is not the mind. Mind is this. When I said I felt that sensation emanating first from my head? Well, that's mind. The brain is what we call the interface. But mind is non-local. It's all over. It's deep. It's mysterious, hence dark. Dark is typically a mystery. So when we draw from the idea that heaven and earth are still thoughts, the deep, the dark deep can only be mind. So, do you have any thoughts about that, Misty?
Well, as you were just talking, I was just, I guess, kind of ruminating inside my mind, kind of like being co-creators of our thoughts and, just various things that I've stumbled upon about that. And more so like, what am I thinking of a lot of the time? Is the majority of the time my thoughts negative thoughts, the deep, like dark thoughts? Or am I co-creating something that's positive? Like, where does my mind go? And then I was thinking about the meditation, which was very strange, by the way, Reverend Thomas, because I turned to my husband just as you were talking about the past life regression. I saw the shoes that you were talking about. And so I turned to him and I'm like, I just saw that. Like, I saw the buckle on the shoe right before you even said anything about it. But I didn't even know where that came from. I saw these shoes and I'm like, is that me? And where are these shoes coming from? Anyways, the heaven and the earth, I I relate that as with positive and negative, and I don't know. So my head was doing a whole bunch of stuff with that, and I don't know if any of that makes any sort of linear sense, but I was kind of all over the place as you were talking. So
No, that's good. That's good. That's, science has discovered that all the good stuff is the nonlinear stuff. Which is deep thought. So, no, that's good. That's good. I like that. And would you like to venture into this, Ray? No? Okay.
You went by that bus stop.
Oh,
At least
yeah.
not at this point.
Oh, yeah. So how about you, Sharon? How do you feel about this idea of heaven and earth being thoughts, and dark, deep being the mind?
Wow, that's well, I think that, I mean, as far as heaven is concerned, that's all we have is our thoughts of that. I mean, we don't, there's 100 million different explanations for what that is. For every person is a different explanation. So, I'm not, what I think about it, what it is, what what it means to me, or if I think it exists or doesn't exist. I think I kind of run I don't know. I see that as personally as something that is not really in my conscious life. I don't look at it that, some people look at heaven, oh, I can't wait to get to heaven, and,
Yeah, everybody's dying to get there.
Exactly. Or are they, people, it's something that's right in the forefront of their life, and it isn't to me, because I'm too busy trying to deal with the stuff that's right in front of me. So I don't really look at this as a goal. I don't look at it as a goal. I don't look at it as a reward necessarily. Like in the song, it's a death is only what did she say?
Horizon.
A horizon. So I kind of look at it like that. It was a great song. It really, I was listening to the words, I really liked it. So yeah, I as far as the heaven part of it, that isn't really something I really focus on. But I don't think that, one is the opposite of the other necessarily either. I don't really think that, because there are good things on the earth too. It's not all negative. There's a lot of negative, but it's not all negative. So, it's just something we have to go through.
Good. Shall we continue? And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And he divided the light from the darkness. Now there's a lot of stories, a lot of teachings around just that little bit, especially where it says, "Let there be light." And there was light. And I want to share one with you. I know I've got it in here. I just have to look at where it's at. Yes. This was written by the Sufi, and I'm probably mispronouncing his name, Ibn Arabi. And he writes that he created his own image within the womb. He created. Let there be light. What is light? What is the soul? That's the question I should be asking. Thank you. What is the soul? Oh,
Our
anybody?
essence.
Yeah.
Our essence. Yes, our essence.
Our connection to the
Our
Creator.
connection. Anyone else? What is the soul? We've talked about this. How does, pardon?
It's our individualized spirit
Okay.
that which you know, in the journey of separation, each of us is uh, uniquely evolving and growing, and the soul is the record keeper of all of that uh, until the great merging at the end, when we return to the source and no longer have any differentiation from the source itself, becoming one with the all. It's a long journey, and I know I have a very long way to go in that journey, but I see the direction, and that's what we're doing. So we are the same, and we are uniquely different, and we're very definitely connected in all of the same source.
Good responses, but not the answer I was looking for. I gave you a hint. Let there be light, and there was light. And for those of you who remain perplexed, the soul is a light being. That's why a lot of the gurus, a lot of the spiritual teachers, the metaphysical teachers, the occult teachers say that when the light was created, when God said, let there be light, he became self-aware, or he created himself. Or as the Sufi wrote, and I like this one much better, he created his own image in the womb. It's all about light. And he said, oh, let me see, he didn't say, he divided the light from the darkness. He divided the light from the darkness. There's a lot we can do with that, and I'm getting ahead of myself, so I apologize for that, because now I have to back up and look at my notes here and get back on track, because he moved across the waters. And waters represent a lot of other things as well. I know I presented this one time as being the amniotic fluid, and that the soul of God moving across the waters was the souls stirring the waters up, getting ready to dive into their new jacket. But we're looking at this a little different. So waters also sometimes represent the flow of consciousness or the flow of emotions. And emotions can be very dangerous, but they're very powerful. If we awaken the wrong emotions, what do we end up with? Genocide. We don't want that one. We want the other one. We want to wake up the nurturing emotions and everything. But there's a lot that goes into that. And so dividing the light from the dark is not the same as extracting the dark from the light. Words are important. But the real question is, why was the light divided from the dark? What does light typically represent? Now that we've got the soul out of the way, and we've got that. The intellect, exactly. Intelligence, the intellect. And if the light typically represents the intellect, then what would the dark represent?
Ignorance,
Ignorance.
or just lack of knowledge.
Lack of knowledge. That's a better term than ignorance. Ignorance is people just get so ooh.
Yeah.
But lack of knowledge, well, then they just feel indignant. So, yeah, you could say that he was saying, let the wise be amongst the wise and the foolish with the foolish, which would be a typical Old Testament teaching. Always division there. But, this was the first day. So I'll come to Ray last. How's that? Because I really like his input. So I'll begin with Sandy. What are your thoughts with this?
Well, I like, I didn't really pick up on the darkness upon the deep would be our minds, but it makes a lot of sense. So that made lots of sense to me. I kind of write things down, little bits as I'm listening. I guess I agree. It is a long journey, and the becoming self-aware, and it that makes a lot of sense, of course, too. I have not read the beginnings of Genesis in years, so I only remember bits and pieces of it. But it's interesting because just day one, I mean, we could probably talk for hours just on day one. There's so much. I find it interesting about the separation of the light and the dark, and I think you were starting to talk about that, about, okay, so what, I guess my question, what made the separation? What I mean, they're kind of inferred that that's opposites, but that's not really true. But was it I don't know how to explain it. Was it always that way, or was there a disconnect, or was there a separation, or was it a division, I guess is my question.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand the question, but I'm going to take a stab at it.
Okay.
And, a lot of this stuff, like everything else, the Bible included, as well as a lot of the Eastern writings and such, there's two levels to it. There's the common level that all the common people read and take for themselves and understand. And then there's the esoteric level, or the abstract.
Right.
And in the abstract sense, the light has always represented the intellect. Not necessarily intelligence, mind you, but the intellect. And the darkness has always represented those without knowledge or lacking in knowledge. So when, in this particular moment, when it's written here that God said, let there be light, what happens when we get something, when we finally understand something? What happens?
Light bulb.
Light bulb goes off. And the light bulb shines the light. It separates, it divides the light from the darkness. And I really like, Sandy, that you said that you did not believe that they were opposites like that. And they're not opposites, they're points of growth. Because before we can learn something, before we can truly learn something, we have to be ignorant of it.
Mm-hmm.
We have to get rid of everything that we thought we knew about it so that there's room for the other stuff. Now, is this the right stuff? It's right for me. I don't know if it's right for you.
Right.
So
Okay.
does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. It does, because I guess my question kind of was there ever a disconnect, or was, so you answered that question. No, there really isn't. It's just
Yeah.
a evolved from one aspect to another. So yes, thank
Exactly.
you. Thank you.
Exactly. We created the separation.
Yes.
So, Mauro, do you have any thoughts you'd like to add?
Well, I think listening to everybody's interpretation, I just used to go back and think, sort of like Reverend Thomas was saying, where it wasn't necessarily a day, quote unquote, but I looked at it like somebody was trying to explain, let's say it's 5-6 million years of evolution or billion years, from nothing to where we are today. And that was just the easiest interpretation, was just, hey, this happened and this happened. And, again, not knowing the understanding and the why and the how, just taking it on faith. But I like the idea of, let there be light is kind of where I look at our creation, is that was the light beings, just like the source, were created. It's just interesting to think. I guess my brain goes to, is that just this universe or multiple? I don't know.
Multiple universe?
Sure.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Good. I like that. How about you, Misty? Anything you'd like to add?
I've just always wondered, and I don't know if anybody else has come across this, but talking about how we spoke and let there be light. And then I would always go back to, so he spoke it into existence. Are we able to speak things into existence by what we say, because of frequency and vibration and energy and stuff like that? So being careful what we're speaking, and again, going back to like being co-creators, at least that's something I've identified with. So that was just a thought that I had.
Oh, yes, the spoken word. There has always been the belief that the spoken word was powerful. And that's what they're emphasizing with this. When God said, let there be light, the spoken word, power. That's where he has this illumination and moves forward with it. And Beth, any last thoughts you'd like to add to this?
Oh yeah, because they're not from me. This has to be from Reverend Nellie. Excuse me, Reverend Nellie. But when Sandy was talking about how she did not believe that the points of black and the points of white are separated, I was shown, don't laugh at me, a bowl of chocolate chip cookie dough with the chocolate chips. And the impression I got was, okay, so the points of light are the dough. The chocolate chips are your points of darkness. But oh, when you put them in the oven and you've got that light and that heat and those chips begin to melt, so the darkness is going away and the knowledge is coming, how much sweeter it is.
Oh, stop.
That was Reverend Nellie, it wasn't me.
I want a cookie.
That had to be from her.
Yeah, it sounds like her, and
Yes.
I'll tell you, that's sweet. That's an excellent analogy there. Excellent.
Wow.
Excellent.
Good for you,
job.
Reverend Nellie.
Good job. And And Reverend Thomas, any last thoughts?
You may be sorry you asked, but yeah.
Well, I'm sorry for a lot of things, but such is life.
The impression that I got is we're discussing this, the light and the dark, and we're considering that in the way we experience it, and the idea of light and dark being a spectrum, where you have light on one end and you have the absence of that light as the definition of darkness. That, and then you have the spectrum of the shades of light along that continuum is the way we experience it, and that's the way we've been discussing. And the impression that came to me, the thought that came to me, is that maybe what this is referring to, the separation of the darkness and the light, has to do with what science now understands as dark matter and dark energy, and that there is a separation that science acknowledges within the universe of that which is visible and that which is not visible and detectable by our understanding of science. And I immediately had the feeling that fits that description perhaps better than the light that we experience and understand. And that's a question and not a conclusion. And so I leave that with all of you. So hopefully not to add confusion to it all.
May I update your scientific aspect?
Of course.
I recently read where they are proposing that the universe is light. We've got light here. And that reality, as we understand it, is nothing more than interference patterns, making everything a type of hologram, which this aptly describes. I just thought I'd mention that to you. And Sharon, do you have any thoughts you'd like to add?
Really? Not really. I appreciate everything. I mean, there's so many different, I liked everything everybody said in the sense that it all gave us a little bit of different picture, and it was good. But yeah, I don't really think I have anything to add.
That's why I like doing this. That's why I like this class. And Ray,
One of the reasons that I've not participated is because the whole concept of origination, creation, is so far beyond comprehension that I can't add anything that makes any sense. Every spring, when the earth warms up and buds start to open, it is beyond my comprehension how a dead plant comes back to life and is so incredible. And if I can't understand how a lily blooms, it is absolutely beyond me to understand how the universe came to be. So, I mean, we talk about he breathed upon who was he? And where did he come from? And why does it separate itself into positive and negative, or yin and yang, or darkness? Why did that entity even, whatever that entity is, why did it, was it lonely? Why does the universe even exist? I can't contribute anything because I cannot comprehend it.
that's still a good answer. It's a good response.
According to Stephen Hawking, it is possible to create something from nothing. He doesn't bother to explain how that happens. But if the universe, you know, the Big Bang, if the universe came from nothing, from no thing, the obvious question is what preceded that? And if it's possible to create from no thing, I don't understand how flowers.
Where do ideas come from?
I have no idea. I have no idea where ideas come from.
So, excellent additions, all of you. Excellent. So I'll close with this. Yet all is a thought or a dream at this point. At the close of the first day, we have what is known to be and what can be, which is all insubstantial. So, thank you very much for that. I apologize. I didn't realize we were going to go